All right, welcome back into another edition of Jake's Takes. I am your host, Jake Masucci, and today I am super excited for another edition of our College Athlete Series. This is part two of the series, and I'm super excited to be joined by my guy, Chris Conway. Super excited for this episode. And Chris, how we doing, man? It's been a long time no see, man.
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm over here in Seattle, Washington right now, a ways away from Michigan, but it's really cool. I mean, just this experience, being able to kind of be out of my comfort zone and be away from what I'm used to, has been really cool so far. So I like it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Just so the audience knows a little bit about our backstory. I'm a manager at Oakland University right now. Chris was with Oakland for 2 years, was the starting center for 2 years, and me and him got to really develop a great relationship together. Every day before practice, man, you'd be out there grinding. I'd be getting the pad out for you. We'd be going at it, back and forth, man. So I'm really happy you were able to join the show, man. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about your basketball career a little bit. So you grew up in Naperville, Illinois, and
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about like what got you into the sport of basketball and what kind of started that obsession to becoming a college athlete within the sport.
So I feel like I always grew up just wanting to be outside, and I had a basketball hoop outside, and I just grew up being a super tall kid. So I think the automatic best choice for me was basketball. And I played a lot of other sports, but when I got to age like 11 or 12, it was just very clear that I was excelling in basketball, and I really wasn't. I was too competitive to play something I wasn't good at. So I
Yeah,
was like, I'm not gonna keep playing soccer, baseball. Like I'll just stick to basketball. And from about age 11, 12, I just fell in love with the game. I was watching, mixtapes, growing up watching Derrick Rose when I was in Illinois. He was like my idol, Kevin Durant, guys like that. And I just kind of developed this love for basketball that I still have. So,
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I play basketball myself, so watching those mixtapes and watching all that
yeah.
stuff, like there was some good stuff, getting you hyped for the games and stuff. You got all those overtime athletes, all that stuff, getting you going. So I mean, I'm sure that development kind of helped you there, right?
For sure. No, for sure. I think you watch guys, especially offensively.
Yeah.
I was watching a lot of guys that were like Kevin Durant, who were super tall but could move well. I'd go out in the front yard and I'd pretend to do some of those moves. And I think that genuinely helped develop me as a basketball player, and gave me some skill sets that a typical guy my height might not have. So,
Yeah, and that's where the game's going too. It's going to more of that fluid, being able to do different things, having big guys be able to step out, shoot some threes. You can definitely shoot
yeah.
the ball, as I remembered, rebounded for you. You can bring it out and shoot it, and being capable defender too, So
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing to kind of dive into. But looking at high school, let's talk about your high school a little bit. You went to
Mhm.
Naperville Central, and what I wrote down is you were two-time all DVC honors, and then
Yep.
you led your team to a regional championship in your senior year. So, talk to me about your high school basketball experience. Kind of
Mhm.
just some stories that went along with your development, and just kind of like how that experience for you was.
Yeah. High school was really interesting, and I think it kind of helped. There's two parts to my development. I think high school was the first part. I came in as a freshman. I was like 6'6", like 170, playing on the sophomore team, and I really wasn't that good. Like I was playing up because I was big and I could score a little bit, but I just wasn't that good. And then, sophomore through senior year, I was on varsity. I'd say junior year was kind of a struggle for me. I should have been better than I was, and that's just kind of the common theme of high school. I always felt like I could be a lot better. My potential was there, but I just didn't really work for it. So my senior year came around, and I don't even think I was the best player on our team. We had a guy named Cam Doherty. He actually plays water polo at Harvard, or he
Okay.
did play water polo at Harvard. Kind of the unsung hero of that team, but um, it was kind of us two leading the team to success, and we had a really cool year. I mean, we made it about as far as any team from Naperville Central ever did, and then COVID shut down our season.
Oh
But
man.
I know we like to say we're like 1/16 of a 16th of a state champion because we never lost. So We still kind of won state, but no, it was really cool. I think high school is a unique time because you spend 8 hours a day with these guys
Yeah.
in school, and then you go play basketball with them. So everyone just loved each other, and it was a super fun time. And I was literally just playing kind of with my best friends, and it really helped me evolve as a basketball player, along with obviously AAU.
Yeah.
Super big.
For sure, for sure, and kinda getting into that AAU, I like to look at, with, high school development especially, AAU is kinda more like how you going off on your own in the recruiting side, So
Yeah.
talk to me about when did recruiting really start for you? Because you're more of a D1 athlete, like, big time and, trying to get those looks, it can be
Mhm.
difficult. It can be very
Yeah.
difficult for a lot of college trying to be college athletes. So talk to me about the recruiting process for you. Was it more through AAU? Was it more through camps? How did you kind of attack that process?
hmm It's funny because I remember when uh, people my age could first start getting calls and texts. That first day, I got zero calls or texts from any D1 schools, and I was pretty upset about that. But I kind of just took it for what it was and kept going. And I started going to some camps, and I went to DePaul's camp, and I got offered within like the first game of camps, like camp games there, and that just gave me a lot of confidence that you know what I can play at the next level. And then within the next couple weeks I got like two more, three more, and then by the end of my junior year I think I had like six or seven D1 offers, so I was pretty happy about that. And that it stemmed from AAU a little bit, but it was mainly from going to these camps and just being in front of the coaches and showing them I'm better than the rest of these players here. You should offer me a scholarship. And so at that time, I didn't really think of it that way because I wasn't always super confident, but that's just what it was. And then obviously, I chose Oakland for the right reason because their coaching staff just far and away wanted me the most and made me a priority. So that was a pretty easy decision for me, definitely.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, no, kind of like centering on those camps, high school, and all that experience. You're going around playing so much basketball. You got to have some really cool stories attached to it.
Yeah.
Is there any story that kind of sticks out from your high school days that you're just like, man,
Mhm.
that was crazy?
There was a team I played on for half a season when I was a 17U. I was called Indy Heat. It
Uh,
was an EYBL team, and that team had some pretty good guys in the team. Jaden Ivey was one guy on the team. There's a few other guys who are still in college. Nigel Pack, I think he's at Miami.
yeah.
DeAndre Davis, Nelly Davis. He
Okay.
was with FAU when they had that big run. So just a lot of guys that were insanely good at basketball. So for me, that was just really cool to be around those guys and see that this is like the ultimate, like this is what basketball is at the very highest level. So for me, that was really cool, and I'd say like the best experience, definitely.
For sure, for sure. I mean, that kind of leads into us talking about like you a little bit. You're on a really, really cool team, and that high school experience, I'm sure like with AAU, with all that, you get to be around great players, which is
Mhm.
super, super cool. So talk to me a little bit about like in high school or in AAU, was there a game specifically where you remember you go back to and you're like, man, I was either on fire this game or I just
Mhm.
couldn't hit a shot, and
Yeah.
it was horrible. Is there a game
Yeah.
like that you remember?
There's a decent amount of games. I'm trying to think of one that was the most like just stood out the most to me. It'd probably be what would it be? It would probably be an AAU when I was on that team. We played another AAU team called Boo Williams and a guy
Okay.
named I think Mark Williams. He's in the NBA now, but he was
Yeah.
um, with that team. I remember that was my matchup when I got in the game, and I just look over on like the court, and there's just Coach K. It like all these guys just sitting there, just with their legs crossed, watching. I'm just like, they're not here for me, so I might as well just go play basketball and have fun. But
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm not even saying I played that well that game, but it was just that's the most memorable game for me because that was the first time I was like, this is what I grew up watching. Like guys
Yeah.
like this coaching, like that's the type of platform I'm lucky to be on. So that was definitely just the most crazy memorable moment for me.
Yeah, that's gotta be nuts because I mean, like at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about like those overtime videos and stuff, and you always see like the coaches from
Yeah.
it, like and they're
Yep.
always watching, they're always ready. I mean, like seeing that in person, that's gotta be like, oh, chill. That brought chills to my back. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, talk to me about like your feelings before that. That's gotta be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, as a 16, 17-year-old, you're not even taking it too serious, like at that point. But I always like basketball has been a huge priority for me, so it was just motivating. It was just like this is really cool. I'm just gonna go out there and play as hard as I can, and any feedback I get from coaches, I get. So that's just obviously it's just a blessing to have those opportunities for sure.
For sure, for sure. All right,
Mhm.
well, we are actually gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna chop it up more with Chris Conway. We'll be back in a sec.
Welcome, everybody, to the JOMO Show, your home for Oakland sports and beyond from WXOU. My name is Giovanni Mosheri, and I am the host of the one and only show that covers the Oakland University Golden Grizzlies each and every week. Subscribe to the JOMO Show for weekly interviews with athletes and coaches, for a recap of the week's action at OU, and whatever else is going on in the sports world. You can tune in on 88.3 FM, WXOU, or wherever you get your podcasts each week. Go Golden Grizzlies on the JOMO Show.
Are you seeking connection, harmony, or a deeper sense of purpose? We believe spirituality is a universal language. Whether you find purpose in prayer, meditation, or simply connecting with nature, Merkaba is here to embrace your unique path. Merkaba, elevating consciousness through fashion. Visit Merkaba.shop or follow us on Instagram at Merkaba to explore our unique world of fashion and our all-new fragrance line handmade in Detroit, Michigan. Use code JAKESTAKES123 for 10% off any order. This exclusive offer only lasts for a limited time.
All right, welcome back into the podcast, and I got on Chris Conway with us, and Chris and I were just talking about recruiting, and we talked about how he got to Oakland. Okay, so let's talk about those first 2 years at Oakland. Very much with college athletics, your first 2 years is about development. It's
Mhm.
about just starting to understand systems, starting to understand, okay, this is what it takes to be a college athlete and how to get there. So, talk to me about your first 2 years at Oakland and what you kind of learned from them and how you grew to be a college athlete. Because there's a lot of demands, there's a lot of difficulty. That's what the College
Yeah.
Athlete Series is here to talk about and to completely understand. So, talk to me about that transition from high school to college for you?
Mhm. I mean, it was very unique because it started during the COVID situation, but at the same time, I think that was kind of a blessing because it gave us, you know, an extra year, like obviously. So that number one was really cool. But there's definitely a lot of positives and negatives. It was great to have guys like Trey around because, he's still my best friend to this day. And having him as a support system every day coming back from practice and stuff was really cool. But for me, it was just kind of a rude awakening because it's like you are used to being the biggest, fastest, strongest, just most, you're like a superhuman in high school. And then you come to this D1 school and everyone is just like you.
Yeah.
So for those first 2 years, there was a lot of frustrating times because I wasn't playing a lot. And I'd go to practice and I would try, like I'd give effort, and I thought that was all I could do.
Yeah.
So I was getting very frustrated, but then I kind of got to a point at the end of my second year, going into my third year, where I was like, I can change the narrative. Like I was at a point where if I didn't play the next year, I wouldn't have stayed at Oakland. I would have went to like a D2 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna give this everything I got and then go from there. So those first 2 years were really important because they showed me that I can't continue to do what I was doing and get a different result. Definitely.
Yeah.
So
I mean, talking to a lot of athletes and like seeing those first 2 years, they're really about like sharpening the mind, it's
yeah.
sharpening the mind to be like, okay, what I was doing isn't gonna get me to where I
Mhm.
need to be. So
Hmm.
now, like, we see the athletes, we're adjusting to it. How do we get better than these athletes? And it's creating that mindset. And I feel like with you, you've always had a very structured mindset and a great mindset towards that because you're very meticulous with how you work. I've seen it every day, especially like being a manager. I'm the first one in the gym. You're one of the first people to walk in and you're right into your post stuff, right away.
Hmm.
The first
Yeah.
hooks, the right hand hooks, left hand hooks, all that, all the specific moves that you need to do in the post. So talk to me about like what kind of sharpened your mind and how you became so meticulous in your work.
Yeah. I think it just started with the fact that I wasn't satisfied with where I was at. And then I said, okay, if I'm not satisfied with where I'm at, what can I do to get better? And the first thing that came to my mind was just every day before practice, have a routine that makes me feel confident for practice, because practice is really just my audition to coach, like, play me.
Yeah.
So you got to play well in practice. So I kind of put together a routine that I had made some stuff up on my own. Cov had years past had shown me some stuff, other things I'd seen, and I just kind of developed a very specific routine of what I would do before practice. Any possible game shot I could take during practice that shot 3 times, make it 3 times, and just do that over and over and over. I was very blessed to have people like you and people like Griff who would
Yeah.
be able to help with that, because I can't get that look without them. So I kind of developed that routine and I stuck with it for the last 2 years, and I definitely think it's helped me a lot. So.
Yeah, I mean, and like you see it with all of the, I mean, great players. Like with Trey, his was in the weight room.
Mhm.
Unbelievable weight room guy, and was just
Yeah,
absolutely incredible there. With Goldkey, it was
exactly.
his shooting, right?
Hmm.
Unbelievable shooter. He had his own
Yeah,
shooting routine. With Blake, same thing, shooting
yeah,
routine, and then it was about the last year taking care of his body.
exactly.
And all of those people having like specific ways to help them grow, I think is so
Mhm.
important in any sport. You see it with a golfer too. Like they have to have a
Yeah,
routine beforehand. And
exactly.
with all of that, I think that stuff is just really cool, diving into
Mhm.
that. And I
Yeah.
mean, like Steph Curry with his dribbling, everybody
Hmm.
has something. And
Yeah.
I think it's really cool how you developed a system like that.
Mhm. No, yeah, I mean, it just came from the fact that I wasn't happy where I was at, you know what I mean? So there's stuff I do differently nowadays that I wasn't doing as much then. Like, now I kind of emphasize shooting a little more, because
Okay.
in the Big Ten, I'm not just going to stand in the post and shoot hook shots over 7'5" guys all day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's, it's just kind of adjusting to what the coaching staff wants me to do and just kind of working on that. So,
Yeah. Being the best at your role, right? Being the best at
exactly.
your role for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So let's switch into, you had those development years, kind of those
Mhm.
growth years. So then
Yeah.
your junior senior year, there was much more responsibility put on you as a starting center. So
Mhm.
talk to me about the transition to those development years into the starting position, into more responsibility, and how you handled that more responsibility.
Mhm. I think I struggle with it sometimes, because I think I was in a position where I was relied on, but I wasn't needed for that junior year. I think
Okay.
last year I was needed to a certain extent,
Yeah.
just for certain things that I was able to help Trey with, Blake with, Jack with. But that junior year was more so I could help the team, but I could also hurt the team.
Hmm.
So it was that there was games where I'm playing for like 35 minutes, having 10, 15 points, and
Yeah.
there's games where I was playing 10 minutes, barely scoring. So that was just a mental battle for me. And I think a lot of athletes face that. But it just came down to, okay, why am I on the floor for 10 minutes instead of 35?
Yeah.
And a lot of that was just defensive stuff. So going into that senior year, obviously a lot more responsibility, obviously playing a lot more. It just came down to knowing what my weaknesses were, sharpening those up, and then just being really good at the stuff I'm already good at.
Hmm.
Because I feel like, and Campy had always said this, um, if you're really good at certain things, it can help your weaknesses. So
Yeah.
it was just continuing to improve, continue to do those routines that I was doing. And I really felt like in between my junior, senior year, I just took my work ethic to a different level. So I think that helped out as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the development was unbelievable. Like you
Mhm.
defensively was absolutely huge for the zone. So talk to me about moving into the senior year. And I mean, we were on a very, very successful team. Like
Mhm.
awesome, awesome season. So talk to me
Yeah.
about that season for you and what the run really felt like for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can say this now, which is pretty cool that like I will look back in 20 years and think this was one of the best years of my life, if not the best as like a young adult.
Yeah.
Just the team we were on, like the best friends I had. I felt like I could fully be myself around those guys. I've always been kind of a quieter guy, but I could walk into that locker room and just be how I was at any point. So, from that standpoint, we were all just like best friends. We just loved each other.
Mhm.
And then on the court, obviously, it didn't start out great, but we continuously just got better and better. And looking back, we had all the pieces to be that successful. And I don't even think we knew it at that time.
Yeah.
But I mean, we just had a bunch of guys who wanted to win and who were genuinely unselfish, like good basketball players. So I think that run we had, I'll be telling my kids about it. You know what I mean? I'll be bragging. I'll be pretending like I had 30 against Kentucky, but stuff like that. But it was just really cool. Like so many, like no one really gets to experience that. That tournament is what I wanted to be in ever since I was a freshman. It's what I've watched every year since I was a little kid. So to be in that tournament and help your team win a game against Kentucky
Yeah.
is like something that I still don't process to this day, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that it was Kentucky, I think
Yeah.
makes it so much better, you know?
hmm It
Uh,
is really cool.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Talk to me about like being in the arena, like being on the
Mhm.
floor, being in the arena, and that moment where you realized we're gonna beat Kentucky. Talk to me about that.
Mhm. I think it kind of in the first couple minutes of the game, if I'm being honest, I just got to a point where I didn't feel like they were any better than us.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they were bigger than us, but there was no point where I was just like, oh, this guy is way stronger than me, way faster than me, way better than me. Like, I was just like, these guys are just like us. So it kind of got to that point in the second half when Jack is making a three every 2 seconds and Trey's doing his thing,
Mhm.
Blake's doing his thing. DQ's hitting big shots, Rockets passing the ball, making good decisions. It just kind of got to a point where I was like, if we just continue what we're doing, we can win the game.
Yeah.
And then this may be bad, but I've always done this thing where I don't look at the scoreboard unless there's like 2 minutes, 1 minute left, because I don't even want to know like
Yeah.
what the score. I just want to keep playing as hard as I can and not worry about that too much until you've got to make decisions. But I knew it was a close game, and then obviously DQ hit that shot,
Yep.
and that's when I was like, all right, we won this game.
Yeah.
And it's just looking over at the crowd was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
mean, like I still say it to this day in both of those environments, like I've just never heard a stadium louder until
hmm
after we beat Kentucky and then
Yeah.
when Golke checked into the NC State game. Like
Yeah.
I've just never heard it louder. I've never heard it louder. And
I know. It's crazy.
yeah, it was such an electric feeling for sure.
Uh-huh.
So moving into this year, okay, we had the summer. I know you were planning about coming back. Talk to me about the transfer portal and what made you decide to go into the portal and what made Washington the right choice for you.
I think ultimately it just came down to the fact that I felt like my obligation was to graduate from Oakland University and to help bring success to the university in any way I could.
Yeah.
And like we did that, like
Hmm.
that happened. And then I saw all these people that I spent years with, Blake, Trey, being successful, kind of going on, doing their own thing. And I love the people on the team from last year who were still there. But I just was kind of reflecting to myself, like, should I kind of challenge myself? Should I bet on myself and just see what's out there, for that last year?
Yeah.
And ultimately, it just came down to the fact that I wanted, with that fifth year to have an experience where you just get to do something that not many people get to do, which is, playing at a Big Ten school or
Yeah.
a Big 12 school. And I knew that I was capable and skilled enough to do it. So it was just making that decision because I knew um, it would hurt some people at Oakland,
Yeah,
and it hurt me too because I care about every coach, I care about every player, I care about every fan that ever I interacted with. They're all important. So I knew it would upset some people, but I knew the people who really cared about me would understand. So.
for sure.
Um, yeah, and once I got in the portal, it is a little hectic. I'm not a super social person, so your phone ringing every zero point 0.3 seconds for a few days is not super fun. I mean, you're blessed to have that opportunity to do stuff like that. But um, Washington, the head coach, Danny Sprinkle,
Mhm.
he called me within a couple hours of me entering the portal and just made it known that he had a vision for me. And another assistant coach that after I got in the portal, was in contact with was Coach Slocum, and he was another guy that was he just seemed like he was really looking out for me, really cared about me as a person and as a player. Then I took a visit, and I mean it's just insane here. I don't know if you've ever been to Seattle or anywhere near University of Washington, but this is a place you can't beat in terms of location and in
Right.
terms of resources. So
Yeah. Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's sweet. That's sweet. I mean,
Mhm.
having like the Big Ten resources and being at like a
Yeah.
big time Big Ten school, I mean, it's got to be too cool. Talk to me about like a day in the life. Like you're clearly there right now. Talk to me about a day
Yeah.
in the life of like what you're going through right now this summer.
Summer it's decently similar to Oakland. It's just our practices are mainly focused because we have a new coach and new team.
Yeah.
Our practices are focused like they're like preseason practices. Like we don't do a whole lot of skill specific work. We do that on our own.
Hmm.
But in practices, we'll wake up, we'll eat breakfast, sometimes have conditioning or just like any speed training, and then we'll practice from like usually 10 to 11:30, and then from there it's getting treatment for my knees and stuff, eating lunch. Then we usually have a lift around like 2 or 3, and then sometimes we'll come back for open gym in a few hours after that to just play pickup. And I think that's been super helpful, just playing against guys who are Big Ten good every
Yeah.
single day, in practice and in open gyms. Because I mean, it's hard to find competition like that. Just going to your local park, you know what I mean? Going to
Yeah.
play pickup in the summer. So in that, I feel like I'm developing for sure.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This has been so much
appreciate
fun. Before we go, I do have one more question. I
it.
asked this to everybody on the College Athlete Series, but if you had to pick three athletes that have just kind of molded you into who you are, that have inspired you, this can be athletes of any sport.
Mhm,
If you had to pick three, like who's motivated you to become Chris Conway, to become that
mhm.
college athlete? If you had to pick
Yeah.
three athletes.
I'd say Kevin Durant is one just because I like his demeanor. I like the way he's not, out there being loud. He just kind of goes about his business. And he's still a funny guy, a
Yeah.
cool guy, but he just goes about his business and he'll just give you 25, 30 on any day. Him for sure. Derrick Rose, same thing, his demeanor.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just very stone faced, very serious, but he can, enjoy his time with other people, it seems like, from the stuff I've seen. And then I'd say probably the third one is LeBron, just because of the way he carries himself,
mhm,
whether it's in the media, whether it's with his wife, with his kids. You never hear a bad thing about LeBron James. So I think every athlete, if LeBron can do it, you should be able to do it. Like you see a lot of athletes out here just making stupid mistakes, like not doing what they're supposed to do. And your body, you can only play basketball for so long,
yeah,
so you don't want to waste those years just doing dumb stuff. So I definitely say he's a third one for sure.
for sure. Those are some sweet
Yeah.
names. Those are some sweet names.
Mhm.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Super fun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up Jake's takes for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, wherever you're at. Go like, subscribe on YouTube, follow the channel on Spotify, and I'll be back at you guys soon. Peace.